Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stan Houston, and it is Interesting Ideas for a Wednesday, November 1st. This is All Saints' Day, and perhaps some of you know what that means, but it is a significant day, particularly in the history of the Christian tradition. And in fact, as you may also understand, the day before All Saints' Day was a Hallowed Eve. So October 31st, just before All Saints' Day, is a hallowed evening. There you go. I don't think it has much of a religious celebration anymore, but that is the story behind it. Well, that does have a little bit of a meaning even today, because even though Halloween is supposed to be Happy Halloween, these are not happy times. And I want to point out something that maybe we should give some thought to, and that is it is indeed a time for war. And could it be that in many ways some of the lights are going out around the world? And there's a story about that too. So let's see if we can at least have a little bit of inspiration, maybe some instruction, and something where we can be inspired to a little more imagination and courage in these difficult times. I'm Stan Houston. The program is Interesting Ideas, and it begins right now. I actually mentioned it in a number of pieces of correspondence and in one of our programs that there is the ancient word from the Hebrew Scriptures, the Ecclesiastes, and many of you have heard some of the things. There's a time for peace, yes, and there's a time for war. Yeah, we're all for peace and justice, but could it be that sometimes there's a time for war? Well, I just mentioned that because it seemingly is the situation now, and right after I said it, he didn't hear it from me. He knew it. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu quoted that same excerpt from the Hebrew Scriptures. It's a time for war. It's not a time to have a battle. It's not a time to clean up the mess. It's not a time to do an operation. It's not a time to do those things that usually go into acts of violence and defense and offense. He used the W word. It's a time for war. And they fully intend to do that. No, they're not going to have a ceasefire. If Hamas surrenders totally, they'll have a ceasefire. But no, it's a time for war. And it's going to be a very difficult and challenging time. And that may give us some clarity about a few things. Unfortunately, some things are not going to go well. Back in you don't remember this, back in 1914, the First World War had just begun in the fall, in August of 1914. And it had been a rather prosperous and gilded age and robber baron time. Things were going and glowing and good in Europe. Good times. And then we stumbled in, and it literally was a stumbling in to a world war. At that time, Sir Edward Grey, who was one of the foreign ministers of Great Britain, made a very prescient statement, which has now been copied many, many times. And he said something like this: "The lamps are going out all over Europe, and we will not see them again in our lifetime." The darkness has come. And of course, it was 4 more years of incredible, brutal, awful world war. Millions died. And when all was said and done, very little was accomplished in terms of boundaries or barriers or some of the other issues that were involved. It's just that finally the Allies, particularly with the help of the United States, was able to push back slightly the German army and push against some of the other ones involved. And so an armistice was declared. An armistice. They stopped shooting. It wasn't a truce yet, but an armistice was declared. And of course, that is November 11th, 1918, which was celebrated as Armistice Day for many years, and of course has now been reconfigured into Veterans Day, at least here in the United States. In Great Britain, it's still a very important day. It's Remembrance Day. And of course, at Westminster Abbey, there is a huge part, and it was shown while the coronation of Charles was done. It was a huge part of Westminster Abbey, the remembrance of the terrible, terrible things and prices paid in World War I. Well, the thing that has me a little bit on edge or on tiptoe is, could we in some ways be seeing a time, particularly as we see the rise of anti-Semitism and some of the hatred that is flowing out of that, and some of the ways that other people are positioning themselves to perhaps enter the war or make it a more extended war? Could it be that we're going to see some of the lights go out in our life and in our world? Obviously, war is not good for anybody except maybe those people who make money from it. And, of course, that happens, always has happened. But could it be that we might be in for some emotionally, relationally, and historically dark periods? It doesn't appear that we have the leadership within our world and in our situations and our circumstances that will quickly lead us to something that will be better, and that the conflict will cease, and that there might be a restoration. Ha ha, as someone said. Those of you who thought you were voting for normalcy, how's that working out for you? Well, of course, it's not working out for any of us. One of the things I might suggest that might happen is that perhaps we begin to concentrate on what might be more important. There's a lot of our social and cultural politics about the trans movement, and then global warming, climate crisis, which there is no immediate crisis, if at all. Maybe those things will no longer pervade our politics and our descriptions because they aren't important. They're not relevant for the right now. The right now is, first of all, Europe is going cold. They're low on fuel, and it could be a very difficult winter. Obviously, in America, there's all kinds of other situations, not only the threats of immigration and the threats that may be because of that, lone wolf terrorists and other terrorists will work their way in. The obviously ethnic and religious hatreds that are somewhat seething, that those will be on the table. We're certainly going to have to decide not to spend time on those things that don't matter now. And maybe they never should have. Well, that's just my thought for this Wednesday. But please keep in mind, right now, what we want to do is in our work, both in our performance coaching and particularly in our work in helping you become a world-class entrepreneur and in helping you build a business by reaching your audience with greater power and effectiveness. Remember, that's the deal. You are going to have to build and continue to build an audience, whether that audience is based on your church, on your social organization, or on your business. You are going to have to find a way using the modern media to reach out to a greater audience. You're going to have to give a greater value. Your message has to come to life. I'm trying to convince a group of people right now that their blog, their little newsletter, is nicely done, but unfortunately, it's kind of boring. And unfortunately, not a lot of people are going to click the read more button here. You've got to bring your message to life. Energy, sound, motion, movement. Those things have to happen. People have to sense that somebody in the world, in the midst of it all, still can walk tall, stand tall, look people straight in the eye, show courage, show confidence, show clarity, express conviction, and at the same time, live with a deep sense of humility and a sense of service to others. That they not only have physical and emotional and relational good stuff, but they are kind and they are spiritually strong. Could you be one of those people? Well, we would like to help you and perhaps people in your organization in these challenging times, and it will be challenging. This is not going to be the normal Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas time. Certainly we will enjoy all of the great Hallmark Christmas movies, and they'll all have good and happy endings, which we need to hear and know. But we will also be living in difficult and perhaps dangerous times, and we will need far more help than we ourselves can provide, not only to make it through, but perhaps to even make it better. Thank you for your time. We'll be right back. I speak, I teach, I coach, I help encourage people. As someone once said, and I took it as the better compliment that I've got, when Stan comes to your place and does his teaching and does his speaking and his coaching, you'll have a better place. You'll have a better place. Now, like everything else, it needs to be renewed and restructured, as I pointed out just recently with our Dr. Koenig, how you make things well, your own personal health. Oftentimes it's every 7 days you need a renewal, both in terms of your life and your business. So reach out to me. Again, stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com. As someone said, just Google Stan Houston or Bing him or whatever you use, Stan Houston, and there are hundreds of radio programs and maybe hundreds and thousands of videos and other things that might come up that just might be helpful for you right now. Again, all the best and blessings. We pray that God will help deliver us through these dark times. as it seems the lights are going out, and we do truly need a light in the night. Be a light in the night. Seek to share light in the night. Best and blessings. Till next time, bye for now.